Hey, okay, so I have been wanting to sit down and talk about this for quite some time. I want to talk about what I wish somebody had told me before I wrote my first book, because I sat down to write my book Anthem and I had this picture in my head of how it was going to go. And let me just tell you, it did not go that way. Not even close. And honestly, I think if somebody would have just, been honest with me and sat down with me beforehand, it would have saved myself a lot of tears and a lot of wasted time. So grab your coffee or your tea or whatever you like to drink and let's talk about it. Okay, so first thing, nobody tells you that having the idea is the easy part. Remember, feeling like, I once knew what my book was about, I was basically done. Like, the hard part was behind me, and I had the idea, I had the calling, and I felt it deep in my bones, and the thought of writing itself would just kind of flow out of me. Because, see, I already knew what I wanted to say, right? Wrong. So entirely wrong. Knowing what your book is about and knowing how to actually build your book out of that idea are two completely different skills. And nobody warns you about that gap. You think that, the hard part is figuring out your message, and then you get there and you realize, oh no, the hard part is actually turning this message into an actual structure, and a reader can follow from beginning until the end. That gap is where so many people quit because nobody told them that gap was normal. So they thought, something was really wrong with them when they hit that wall, and that's not true. Second thing, and this one's a little bit more personal, I wish somebody had told me that my life story was not going to fit into this book. And when I sat down to write, I wanted to include literally everything about my life and my story and every memory that mattered to me and every moment that God used to shape me. I wanted it all in there because it felt important, right? What I didn't understand yet was that a book isn't a container for your whole entire book. It's a container for one message inside. And your life has given you way too much material for, more than any book could hold. I had to learn how to let this stuff go. Stories that I loved and moments that had meant the world to me, and they just didn't belong in this particular book. And that was hard, and it's okay, but that felt almost like betraying my own life, if that makes sense. But once I figured out that not every memory and story has to belong in your book, so much of this got easier because I wasn't trying to cram everything in anymore. I was just trying to serve the one message, core message, that I was actually writing towards. All right, so the next one. I wish somebody had told me that feeling ready and being ready are not the same thing. I taught language arts for years before I did any of this book writing. I edited for Samaritan's Purse. Words were my whole world professionally, and even with all of that behind me, I still sat there thinking, who am I to write this? And I felt like I needed some kind of permission that never actually showed up. I kept waiting to feel ready, and I never did feel that way. I always had to start before I felt ready, every single time, and you do too. And I think that's true for basically everybody I have ever coached too. The writers who actually finish their books are not the ones who felt the most ready, right? They're the ones who started anyway, feeling completely unready and just kept showing up for their book. Okay, let's move on. I wish somebody had told me that momentum matters way more than perfect writing. Now, I used to think that really good writers just sat down and, all the words just magically came to them the first time, and that's not how it works. Not for me, at least, and not for anybody I have ever coached. What actually moves the book forward is showing up again and again, with what you're writing, even if it feels messy or clunky or not very good, which it will. The first draft, you can always go back and fix a messy page, but you cannot fix a page that has no writing on it. And I spent so much time just trying to make each sentence right before I let myself move to the next one. And that is the slowest possible way to write a book. The faster way, right? The way that actually gets books finished is having low expectations that the first draft will look, won't look pretty, because it won't. And the last thing, and honestly, this might be the most important one, I wish somebody had told me that this was going to take a lot longer than I wanted it to. I, wanted to write my book fast. I wanted it to be done quickly in weeks and not years. And when it took a lot longer than expected, I was really frustrated and got down on myself. Like, a real writer should be able to do this by now, right? But books just take time. Life happens in the middle of them. In the middle of writing a book, kids get sick. You lose motivation. I don't know, all these different things. And then, somewhere out of nowhere, the motivation comes back and you start writing again. It just means that you are a person that's writing in the middle of an actual life. And it's the only way any book has ever been written by any author of all time. So if you are sitting there right now with an idea that you just haven't even started your manuscript, or it's been on pause for way longer than you meant for it to be, I just want you to know none of that means that something is wrong with you. It means you are right basically where every author has stood before you. And if any of this is, gut punching you right now, I'd love to hear which part has been hitting home. I want you to drop it in the comments below. I really do read every single comment. And if you are ready to stop carrying this book around in your purse and in your head and actually start writing it and getting it on the page, I have my free Story Clarity Workbook and also my Book Clarity Bootcamp. I'm telling you, they are the bomb, and they will help you get everything done for your book. All right, I will see you later. So have a good rest of your day. Bye for now.